like to call this meeting of your Newark City Council to order, March 5th, 2018. Autumn, please call the roll.
Mr. Cost?
Here.
Mr. Fennell?
Here.
Mr. Frazier?
Here.
Ms. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Labutus?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
Mr. Marmee? Mr. Rath? Mr. Blake?
Here.
And Mr. Buck?
Here.
We have 8 here this evening. If you please stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Buck.
May you bow your heads. O God, who are the hope of sinners and the joy of the holy, grant this council a spirit of regret for failures, perseverance for growth, and humility in success. For the good of our city, we ask you to inflame the members of this chamber with wisdom, hope, courage, and all other virtues necessary to secure prosperity throughout our community and equal justice under the law. Above all, help us to be a people of loving encounter with each other and with our neighbors, that establishing an ever more perfect society on earth, we may one day know the joys of paradise with you. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
Young man, you want to step up to the lectern there? Wait a minute, let's let this young man do it, William. Step right up there and start us in the pledge. Tell us your name and start us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi, I'm Colin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, young man. Thank you, William. You're welcome. Okay, next we have caucus. That's the time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything?
Mr. President,
Mr. Frazier.
I would like to excuse Mr. Rath and Mr. Marmee.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lang. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. We have the minutes of our February 20th, 2018 meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Frazier. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. Next, under appointments this evening, we have Mayor Hall reappointing William Klingensmith, 1328 Brittany, I think it's probably Brittany Hills East, to the Heath,
Robert.
Newark, Licking County Port Authority Board. I'm sorry. Robert Klingensmith, I'm sorry. Did you want to mention anything about
just a couple. He's served on it for a number of years, is surely willing to and wants to continue serving. And I've got a letter from the Port Authority Director, Rick Platt, that would welcome him and would appreciate the continuancy and his knowledge back on that board. So it's kind of probably easy to make that decision from my
Thank you, Mayor.
standpoint.
Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. Next, under reports of standing committee, we have one from finance, one from service, one from capital improvements, and one from safety. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Next tonight, we have comments from citizens. There's 2 sections for comments from citizens, one now and one after the legislation. This is not a debate with council. This is just your opportunity to be heard. Do we have anyone for this first section? Highway.
William Butcher, 263 Union Street. I'm glad back here. I thought to pass on one note to you of my little baby boy Toby. He's a bit upset because the street on Union Street has not been paved yet, and he would like to know when that street is going to get paved. And my other thing is, I've seen a lot of these cars not stopping for emergency vehicles. I'd like to have something done about that. And when I see it, when I look at emergency vehicles, has a right of way for any civilian vehicles, because these emergency vehicles they have to get somewhere real quick. And most of the cars, most of the motors don't pull over like they should. And we almost here a couple of days ago must seen one car not stop for an emergency vehicle. And I don't know what the city's going to be doing about that. My top-10 forecast is calling for mostly clear skies tonight, but there's a chance of rain, freezing rain and sleet. But most of that is going to be moving away. Most of that, we're going to get some more of that by Tuesday. We get some more freezing rain by Tuesday. It should be out here by Tuesday, Wednesday Wednesday afternoon, or that should be dry. Now get your, when we're going to next chance of rain or something, we'll talk about that in my next top 10 forecast.
Thank you, Ed. Anyone else for this first section of citizens' comments? Again, there's once more after the legislation. Okay. We'll move on to resolutions on the second reading, 18-14.
Resolution 18-14 by Mr. Marmee, Mr. Lang, Mr. Koss, Mr. Rath, Mr. Frazier, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Public Safety for an award of fiscal year 2018-2019 funding under the Ohio EMS Training and Equipment Grant Program.
You've heard the second reading of 18-14. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Blake.
move to adopt 1814.
Motion by Mr. Blake.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bub. Is there any discussion on 18-14? Seeing none, on please call the roll to vote.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Fennell.
Yes.
Mr. Frazier.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmee. Mr. Rath. Mr. Blake.
Yes.
And Mr. Bub.
Yes.
18-14 passes 8-0. Next on the second reading, we have 18-16.
Resolution 18-16 by Mr. Lang, Mr. Koss, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Marmee, and Mr. Frazier, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
You've heard the second reading of 18-16. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Lang.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 18-16.
Motion by Mr. Lang, second by Mr. Koss. Is there any discussion on 18-16? Seeing none, on please call the roll to vote.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Fennell.
Yes.
Mr. Frazier.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmee. Mr. Rath. Mr. Blake.
Yes.
And Mr. Bub.
Yes.
18-16 passes 8-0. Next, we go to the resolutions on the first reading, 18-17.
Resolution 18-17 by Mr. Koss, Mr. Lang, and Mr. Frazier, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of municipal corporation.
18-17.
Mr. President.
Mr. Blake.
Move to waive the two-day reading rule.
Second.
For the two-day reading rule on 18-17 by Mr. Blake, second by Mr. Bub. Mr. Blake.
It's a payout for an employee that's left.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Please call the roll, waive the two-day reading rule.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmee, Mr. Rath, Mr. Blake,
Yes.
and Mr. Bub.
Yes.
Two-day reading rule is waived. Mr. Blake.
Mr. President, move to adopt 1817.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Blake, second by Mr. Frazier. Any other discussion on 18-17? Seeing none, please call the roll to vote.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmee, Mr. Rath, Mr. Blake,
Yes.
and Mr. Bub.
Yes.
Yes.
18-17 passes 8-0. Next, we move on to the first reading to 18-18.
Resolution number 18-18 by Mr. Lang, Mr. Koss, Mr. Frazier, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
18-18 will be held for 2 weeks for a second reading. And finally, tonight, we have 18-19.
Resolution 18-19 by Mr. Koss, Mr. Frazier, Mr. Lang, a resolution authorizing the conveyance of certain real property now owned by the City of Newark, Ohio to Newark Development Partners as its agent for industrial, commercial, distribution, and research development.
18-19 will also be held for 2 weeks for a second reading. And that concludes our legislation tonight. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have our second opportunity for comments from citizens. Again, the same rules apply. Do we have anyone who would like to speak in this second section? Mr. Butcher. Do we have anyone else? Okay. All yours, man.
Thank you. My name's Win Butcher, 263 Union Street. Let me just say, this is a past winter. I did see fun with the snow on the ground. Let me just say, my hat goes off to the city snow warriors, which they did a nice job moving the snow. And I'd like to know when Union Street is going to get pothole patched. And I'd like to know when our next mayor's concert is going to be for that pass.
Thank you, man. Anyone from the city tonight on the miscellaneous? Our Honorable Law Director.
Thank you,
Sass.
Mr. President. I'll pass.
Mayor Hall.
I will pass this evening too, thank you.
All right, we'll go to council. Mr. Cost.
I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Cost. Mr. Fennell.
I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. Should I skip you?
I think I have stuff.
Mr. Frazier?
So I want to congratulate the Newark Generals on a state championship. They're qualified for the Nationals, so good work all around. HHCA is having their monthly meeting on Thursday, so I would like anybody that's interested to come out. The DNA is also meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. Newark High School basketball, the girls won districts, the boys are playing in districts, and I'm really excited for these transportation meetings that are ongoing to try to work within the community with the resources that we have and a lot of interested parties in order to find a solution. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Ms. Hall.
Thank you, I will pass.
Ms. Hall. Mr. Labutus.
Thank you, I will pass this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Labutus. Mr. Line.
Yeah, I'd like to start by congratulating a new business for opening in the 5th Ward. We had Trek Brewery open on Saturday night, and I think they had a pretty successful first night. I'd also like to say some nice things about 31 West. I thought they had 2 sold-out shows this weekend. They've got another one coming up. They've really done a nice job. There's something special going on there. And if you haven't been down, I strongly advise everyone to get down there. Tom, I think, is doing a great job bringing the arts back to Newark. That was kind of one of his missions when I first talked to him, and I think he's doing a good job. And then last, I'd like to mention we've got that another transportation meeting. The group that's been meeting is meeting again. Hopefully, last time we kind of broke out into groups to talk about action items. We solidified on a goal, and so we're trying to figure out what our next steps are. So I think that meeting is going to be Saturday, 10 to 12. That's at Trinity Episcopal Church on Main Street. And I guess I will throw this in there since I get a rare opportunity. I'd like to congratulate my Bucknell Bison for getting it to the Patriot League Championship. I don't get as many opportunities as Director Sass, as you mentioned, my alma mater, so I'd throw that out there. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Mr. Blake.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I also want to recognize a small business that's having their opening house tomorrow, Evo Design, in the old Brunswick building. They're having an open house from 5 to 7. Taylor Downs is the vice president of that organization. I know it's open to the public, so other members of council want to attend. I know she would appreciate that. They've been operating for a while, but they're having their official open house tomorrow. Thursday, United Way is having their Women's Day at the Newark space, and so I know that's also open to people, especially with March being Women's History Month, so I would encourage people to try to attend that. And then Saturday is the Mental Health America, Licking County's Night of Hope, and so that's always been a fun event. I know, Don, you attended that, and some others have attended that, and so if you're able to support the work of the Mental Health America of Licking County, then that's a great opportunity for Saturday night to attend that Night of Hope. The last thing is, I just want to say openly, Director Baum, I just want to thank the fire chief. He met with me and Councilman Fennell after his presentation last week and gave some good information, so I appreciated his time and having coffee with us and talking about some other issues with the fire department. And with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. And Mr. Bell.
I will pass, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. And I guess a little housekeeping. This is our first month. We're trying the...
I'm sorry. I was supposed to call a Finance Committee meeting for the 19th.
And do we need service?
I don't have anything, so
Well, we'll go ahead and call service just in case, yes. Thank you, Mr. Blake. This is the first month we're trying our new meeting schedule, so we'll just have to see how it works. Again, 5:45 we're having committees, and then 7 o'clock we're having council, so we're going to try that a little bit, and we'll see if we need to tweak it or not. So
don't come here on Monday.
I'm sorry.
Don't come here next Monday.
Don't come here next Monday unless you want to be here by yourself. Our next meeting, our next committee meeting and council meeting then will be Monday, March 19th at 5:45, and the full council meeting will be at 7. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Foss, second by Mr. Labutus. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. No, same sign. Thank you. We're adjourned.